Welcome to another edition of Mailbag. Now, Mailbag is a feature of the channel where I discuss questions and comments that you guys leave on my channel. Some of them I can answer, some of them I can't, and some of the comments I feel should be shared with you. But right now, into the first Mailbag item of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. Okay, this next question stroke comment comes from Sean Curran. He writes, in response to the AudioStation VST's Theory Board second campaign video I did in May 2021. My brain is not working this afternoon. Probably because I've been playing around with the 16W and it's been driving me potty. Anyway. He writes, great video. The AudioStation sounds like a great idea. I do love those rack mountable sound modules, but in today's world, does it really make sense? We all have laptops and desktops, and these are capable of running music software VST plugins. My laptop is solely dedicated to running VST plugins, does a great job. Don't discount the value of standardization. I can dash into any electronics store and pick up a broken power supply, a data cable, or any other accessory I need. Musicians can use their music laptop to run the band, email, surf the internet, and even play a game or two on the bus. Also, audiences seem okay with the band having a MacBook on stage nowadays. So, does the AudioStation really solve a problem or provide a common solution with limitations? Time will only tell. Now, this is a really good debate, and it's something that I have said many times that I think the Muse Receptor and the AudioStation are really cracking ideas. Muse specifically poorly executed because the company no longer sells the product, and I think he's actually hit the nail on the head. Why do we need these devices? If musicians spend their time as road warriors, why do you need the device? And the point is that this is a specialist device. It's dedicated to a task. And in the case of the Muse Receptor that came before the AudioStation and the AudioStation, both of these are dedicated to that task of producing a predefined sound that is the sound that you want to play back at that point in your performance. Now, the way that they did this, or the way that Muse did this, is they worked on a stripped down Linux kernel as the operating system. So those that don't know, Linux is an operating system. You can have a full-blown Linux kernel which has lots of features and utilities and stuff put into it, or you could strip it down and streamline it. And that's pretty much how a lot of the modern big boards work now. So my Kronos is a Linux board, my Oasis is a Linux board. I haven't really got into the Jupiter 80, but I suspect that's running Linux underneath it. They use computer hardware, a Linux kernel, and then they basically roll on top of that the Kronos, the Oasis, and the Jupiter, if you get my drift. And then I suspect if I go and look under the hood of the Phantom, it's exactly the same. Most of these big boards are now running this style of architecture. And then what they will then do, as I say, Muse did it. They ran a product on top of it, which was the Muse Receptor product, that effectively allowed you to load the VSTs in, and it was dedicated to VST function. Jobs are good. The AudioStation does exactly the same thing. However, rather than running a Linux kernel, what the AudioStation does is it runs a Windows kernel. It actually runs, At the point where I first got switched on to the AudioStation, it was running Windows 7. And I always had a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Concern over Windows 7. And the reason why I had that is because Windows 7 has gone out of extended support. Basically, Microsoft don't support it anymore, which means that if you have a bug on your AudioStation running Windows 7, guess what? You're going to have problems with support. However, AudioStation have said that, and they said this last summer, so I'm expecting it's already in production. AudioStation, a very, very quiet company. I don't know why. They don't seem to make an awful lot of big splashes. But they've said that they were re-engineering the product to work on Windows 10. Great news. I know Windows 10 11 is coming, but let's ignore that for a moment. Windows 10, it's still got life through to sort of 2025. Okay. But what they've done with Windows is what we've done with Linux is effectively strip out all the rubbish you don't need to run what they need to run. So they will have stripped out the mail tools and the chat tools and Teams and all the other stuff that Microsoft bundles into their Windows operating system, which all take memory, processor and disk space. Okay, so they strip all that out and then they put onto that machine the AudioStation application. So that's how the concept works, and that's why I think this is such a good idea. I have to sort of also accept that a high-powered laptop or desktop can do a lot of stuff with a door. Okay, so you can run multiple programs with a door, or even not with a door potentially, but you can run multiple programs because at the end of the day, that's what these machines are all about. They're all about multitasking. That's what Windows was designed for, is multitasking. And it works by effectively running multiple threads through the CPU. So if you've got a CPU that can handle multiple threads, the thing's going to be faster than a CPU that can only handle one thread at a time. Okay, that's getting very technical and I don't really want to get technical. But the problem with a high-powered laptop and a high-powered desktop is unless you know what you're doing, you can't strip out all the Microsoftiness from that machine. And to quote what Sean was saying a minute ago, you can play a game, you can surf the internet, you can do email. That all takes resources on the machine. And that was really one of the main reasons why I stopped using Windows as my primary platform and moved to Mac. Now, I'd never had a Mac before I moved to Mac, and it was a real transition for me from one format to another. But I've got to be honest and say, the way that the Apple OS works, which again is a base form of Linux, but the way the Apple OS works, which they nicked from Nexus, by the way, which was Steve Jobs' Challenger machine before they brought him back into the fold. But the way that works, it doesn't have a lot of the guff that Microsoft put into their Windows operating system that loads at the point you load Windows up. Okay, in the Apple OS, it's a much more streamlined and it compartmentalizes the applications better. Hence the reason why it does better for multitasking than Windows. And just as a side, all the reviews of the Mac hardware, so now that Mac have moved away again from Intel and they're going back to what they call Mac Silicon, that speed differential is only going to become more apparent. So if you go and watch things like Linux Tech Tips, which is a channel on YouTube, he goes through a whole raft of things comparing different CPUs and OSs and Macs and all kinds of stuff. And you get fairly honest, if not comical, reviews from him. But anyway, that's kind of the problem with a undedicated Windows machine. But the AudioStation is dedicated, and that's why I like it. But the problem with the AudioStation, and probably the problem with the Muse Receptor, is they're solving a problem that I'm not sure most musicians know they actually have. And that's kind of the problem I think that this platform is encountering. If I were gigging, and I'll be brutally honest, with multiple keyboards and sound setups and filters and effects, and I was out on the road doing that now, would I have one of these boxes? You bet I would. Okay? Because for every song in the playlist, I can set that box up to deliver the sound that I want. I don't have to mess around with the sound engineer in the venue, okay, about getting the tonal quality of my sound. I might have to play around with the frequency ranges and the building characteristics, but the tonal quality, how my keyboards sound when they hit his desk, I said I can set all that up before I get there. I can set the patches up on the keyboards, I can set the patches up on the effects, and I can set how the VSDs are going to be running in AudioStation. Give him 2 balanced outputs, jobs are good, and go away, don't bother me for the rest of the evening. Okay? You can take that a step further. You can say, right, okay, what I want is, we know how the band needs to sound. I'll put my guitar, my lead guitar, my rhythm guitar, my bass guitar, and maybe the drum kit through it as well. Okay, and all of a sudden you are presenting the sound engineer with a fait accompli. He cannot bugger around with your sound. And I'm sorry, sound engineers out there, there are some really good guys out there that really know their apples and oranges. But when I was gigging and, you know, in the lowest form of musicianship, if you like, those sound engineers didn't know their arse from their elbow. Okay, they were employed probably because their mate was the bar manager or something like that. Many venues were like that, and the sound quality was, to quote a Scottish term, pish. Okay, so that's why I think this is such a cracking idea. For a band, if you were a gigging band and you're turning up at different places every single night of the week, and you want to sound consistent and not have to have arguments with the sound engineer about feedback and all that other jolly nice stuff that you have, the AudioStation makes a lot of sense, or that style of equipment makes a lot of sense.